When you're climbing this hill or any other super steep hill, I want you to think of Cookie Monster. What would Cookie Monster do? Cookie Monster is gonna eat that cookie, right? And where's the cookie? The cookie is on your bars. So you gotta get your chest forwards, bring that chin down, eat that cookie. Climb like Cookie Monster. What's up, folks? Bekah Rottenberg here with Brave Endeavors, mountain bike skills and strength training. And I'm making this video in collaboration with Mountain View Cycles, which is personally my favorite bike shop located in downtown Hood River. We are here at the F King Hill, also known as Meatball, which is the start of the Spaghetti Trail in Post Canyon, Hood River. And I want to give you some climbing tips to get up this hill or really any steep, challenging hill that you might have at home that you've struggled with. I see so many people get 3/4 of the way up this hill, and it's mostly due to lack of technique, not strength. My ultimate goal with making these videos is to help you step out of your comfort zone, feel like you are in control of riding the bike. So what I like to say is be the pilot, not the passenger. And for this particular video, it's to help you get up that hill that's always been a challenge for you. Okay, my friends, there are 4 types of climbing. There is the seated climb, the standing climb, the hover climb, and the walk. Because everybody walks their bike, but some people lie about it. So the seated climb is going to give you the most traction, and it's the most efficient. It's the most sustainable. You can seated climb for the longest. The standing climb is going to give you the most power, right? Sometimes when you're just like, ooh, need a little bit more, that's when you want to stand up. And then the hover climb is where it's like the best of both worlds, because the standing climb, you tend to lose traction with the rear wheel. So often, another error that I notice people will make is when they stand up, they don't bring their hips far enough forwards. When I'm standing up, my balance point is really far forwards, where my hips are almost touching the bars. And that's where you're going to have the most traction with both your front and your rear wheel. The hover climb is you're going back and forth, where you're trying to have maximum traction on the rear wheel, but you're kind of like inching up into a stand in order to get maximum power. So climbing is never static, right? Nothing about mountain biking is static. You're never just staying in the same position for an extended period of time. One of the reasons why I love it, and it's better for your body than, let's say, road cycling. But it means you need to move back and forth, right? You need to stand up, you need to sit down, you need to bring your hips forwards. It's like there's a lot going on, which is another reason I don't want you to get frustrated if you don't nail it on your first try. So go out, give it a couple attempts, expect to mess up, expect to make mistakes, and have fun, right? Ultimately, mountain biking should be fun. And if you're having fun at the end of the day, who cares if you got up that hill or not? The 3 most common mistakes I see people make while they're climbing are their hips are too far back on the saddle, their chest is too upright, and they're pulling from the bars. These mistakes manifest themselves most commonly in either what I call drunk driving, where your front wheel is wobbling back and forth. The front wheel starts to lift up and you kind of get that like floaty sensation, or your rear wheel starts slipping. So my top 3 tips for getting up steep, techie climbs are 1, scoot the boot, 2, eat the cookie, 3, light and tight. Let's dive into what those mean. Number 1, scoot the boot. You want to bring your hips all the way to the nose of your saddle. Now, this depends on how steep the pitch of the climb is, but the steeper the climb gets, the more you want to bring those hips forwards. Sometimes this can be a little uncomfortable, but getting to the top of that hill is totally worth the 5 to 8 seconds of discomfort you're going to have by putting pressure on the very nose of your saddle. I'll often put pressure literally on my sit bone. Like my sit bone will be pressing on the nose of the saddle as I'm finishing up the steepest part of the climb. Now, the reason that you want to have your hips all the way forwards is to find that good balanced position on the bike. All right, so we have Hudson Hollitz here helping me demonstrate body positioning on the bike. Now, what I want you to notice here is if I were in a regular riding position where the bike were flat, I would kind of look like this. Hudson is about to start sweating because he's working so hard to hold me up. So my balanced position on a hill like this is really far forward. So I'm going to let go of the brakes, and Hudson's going to hold me. But this is where I can actually let go of the bike and be super, super balanced here. Now, as my hips go back, I have way more weight on my hands, and Hudson is also working a lot harder. So you want to be in a position where hands are super light, and this applies both to standing and seated climbing. So you can imagine if I'm seated, remember I talked about sit bone, like your sit bone making contact with the nose of the saddle? This might be my climbing position on something this steep. Okay, if my chest is up here, and this is the biggest mistake I see a lot of people make, is they're like, climbing from here, and they think they're gonna make it. Oh, no. That's when that front wheel starts drifting, and if you're pulling on the bars, that's when you start drunk driving. So number 2, eat the cookie. What this means is I want you to envision that there's the best cookie, like your most favorite cookie, sitting on the stem of your handlebars, and that you are leaning forward to get a big old bite out of it. And what this does is it brings your chest and your whole torso closer to the bars, and actually will bring your chin over the stem if the climb is really steep. And again, this is going to help you to stay evenly weighted, evenly balanced on the bike, and maintain ultimate traction with both your wheels, not just your rear wheel, and that's going to eliminate that front wheel lifting sensation. That is one of the common mistakes I see people make. So then the third one, light and tight. And what that means is you want your hands, your whole upper body from your shoulders, elbows to your hands to be really light. And you want your core to be really tight. So I like to tell people, envision you're about to get punched in the stomach, where you're like bracing, and use that bracing energy to drive down into your glutes, quads, and hamstrings to power you up that climb. A fourth tip, and this is pretty pervasive through all of mountain biking, but where you look is where you go. And so right before you're about to crest that climb, make sure your eyes are up and that you're not looking straight down at your front wheel. You might need to scan quickly to see, what's there, especially on this section of trail. There's some tricky routes, but ultimately you want to have your eyes looking up down the trail. One other tip for climbing super steep and smooth hills is lock out your rear suspension. Don't mess with your front, but if you know your climb is relatively smooth, go ahead, lock that sucker out. Just remember to open it up at the top. However, if your climb has a lot of bumps or undulations or rocks or roots in it, don't lock it out. That's actually going to make your climb harder because your rear isn't going to track as well. It's not going to stick to the ground as well as if your suspension has a little bit more give to it. Okay, so one mindset tip. Expect to mess up. Expect to not make it your first, second, and your third try. But go out, practice, give it a couple good efforts, and if you don't get it, don't beat yourself up, right? Give it like 4 or 5 tries, and then, give yourself a pat on the back, give your buddy a high five, and just come back and try it again. Don't sweat it if you don't nail it the first time. I hope you find these tips helpful. Please go out and try them. And if you make it to the top of this hill or any hill that you've always struggled with, please let me know. Leave a comment down below, or better yet, send me a video of you making the climb or your super stoked face at the top of the climb. A huge thank you to all the sponsors that are supporting this video. So number 1, Mountain View Cycles, please go visit them. They have the absolute best customer service. And then huge shout out to Patagonia, Deity, Ergon, Smith Optics, SRAM, Ride Concepts, and Trail Butter for tasty snacks once you make it to the top of the hill. Please like and subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell so that you get notified every time a new video is released. Thank you so much for watching. If you see me out on the trails, please say hi, introduce yourselves, and be fit, be strong, and be brave.